Hello future CS, welcome back to my channel again. So I am on a mission to help you all ace your CA exams with flying color. So many CA foundation students lose marks easily in business law, not because they don't know the law, but due to small avoidable mistakes in the exam. So in this video I will discuss the most commonly committed errors in CA foundation business law and how you can avoid them to improve your scores significantly. So guys, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe for more exam related guidance and strategies. So let's start the video. Guys, when you visit my channel, do check out the playlist section. You will find several curated playlists for the CA Foundation exam. Make sure to explore them and watch the videos in order to get the maximum benefit from each topic. So the first commonly committed error noticed was skipping the legal provisions. So most of the times it was noticed that students do not write the legal provisions clearly. Now for example, suppose the question is for 4 marks. So you have to write the legal provisions in clear and concise manner. So out of these 4 marks, half of the marks will be at least for this legal provision. So sometimes it was noticed that students write provisions only in a minute way. They write the facts and conclusion, but they miss writing the legal provision. So this leads to loss of marks. So it is very important to remember the legal provisions and write it correctly. The next error noticed was writing wrong section numbers. So actually writing section numbers is not expected at foundation level. But it's better to inculcate this habit of reading and writing at least the main section numbers. So if you don't write the subsection number, it's fine. But at least write the main section numbers. It may be benefited at later stages. And also writing the section number is not compulsory. So if you remember the correct section number only, then write it. However, do not quote wrong section number because writing wrong section number can lead to loss of mark. So quoting the subsection number is not required, and section number you can quote only when you are 100% sure. And in case you do not remember the section number, suppose you are answering question relating to Indian Contract Act and you don't remember the section number. So you can just start your answer as per the provisions of the Indian Contract Act and you can continue the answer. However, don't quote the wrong section numbers because wrong section numbers might lead to loss of mark. Main section numbers at least try to learn because this can form base for CA Inter and CA final exams later on. The next error noticed was writing wrong format for application based question. So for application based question, there is a particular format which you can follow for writing the answer. So as I mentioned earlier, step by step marking is there. So if you answer in these steps which I will be telling now, you will get marks for each of the step. So application based question means a small case scenario will be given in the question. And then you have to analyze that case scenario and answer based on what the question is asking. So there are 4 steps now to follow. So the first step is write the facts of the case briefly. So read the question, see what are the facts and write the facts briefly. However, don't copy paste the entire question because this will take a lot of time and you are not expected to copy paste the entire question, just the brief facts. And next, remember the legal provisions and as I mentioned earlier, write the legal provisions in a clear and concise manner. Then the third step will be analyze these provisions and correlate these provisions with the facts in the question. This is the third step. And then the fourth step will be conclusion. So whatever the question is asking, depending on your analysis and your correlation of the provision with the question, give a proper conclusion. So these are the 4 steps which you have to follow while answering the application based question. Even in the ICI study material, suggested answer, etc., if you note carefully, mostly this format itself will be followed. So if you present your answer in this way, it will create a positive impact in the mind of the examiner. The next error noticed was writing wrong format for direct theory question. So for business law, two types of questions will be there, application based and direct theory. So for application based, I just now explained how to answer. Now I will explain for direct theory. For direct theory also we have 3 points. I mean 3 steps. So you can follow these 3 steps while writing answer for direct theory question. So direct theory means there won't be any case scenario. You might be asked like what are the different types of contracts. This is a direct theory question. Or define something as per company law or define something as per Indian Contract Act. This is a direct theory question. So how to answer this? First step will be highlight the main points and then give brief descriptions. So what you can do is you have to give headings and then under the headings you can write the bullet points. And the next step will be explain with the help of examples wherever possible. So for each of the points, depending on the marks allocated also, so if the question is only for 2-3 marks, you need not write very lengthy answer. If the question is for 8 marks, then you can consider writing the examples also wherever possible. And then the third step will be break the answers into brief points or paragraphs. So this is the manner of answering the direct theory question. The next error noticed was wrong utilization of this 15 minutes reading time. So before your exam starts, that is before 2 o'clock, I mean at 1:45 itself, you will get the question paper, right? So 15 minutes you will have the reading time. So this reading time you have to use like in an optimal way. This 15 minutes reading time, how you plan, that itself will form like a foundation for your rest 3 hours, how you will answer the entire question paper. So this 15 minutes reading time, we'll have to divide into 5, 5 and 5. So step number 1 will be like, for the first 5 minutes, go through the entire question paper thoroughly with the open mind. Read all the questions with a calm mind. Sometimes there is a possibility that the question might be similar to what is in your textbook, but some small changes will be there. So read the question with an open mind. Even if the questions might feel familiar to your textbook, we should not have a mindset like, oh, this is the same question, I just write the same answer. So read the entire question with an open mind. So if there is any twist in the question, you will be able to analyze that. Then in the next 5 minutes, what you have to do is, so one choice is there, right? Like the first question is compulsory. Then one question choice will be there. So in the next 5 minutes, decide as to which question you will not answer. So filter out that one question which you don't want to answer. Then in the last 5 minutes, you will have to decide the sequence of the answer. Like which question you will answer first, which you will answer next, like that. It's not necessary like you have to start answering the first question itself first, then the second one, nothing like that. You can start your answer with the fourth question also. But write the question number and the subpart number carefully. That is very important here. And one suggestion is always answer that question first which you know the best, and then the next best and so on. So this will create a good impression in the mind of the examiner. So the examiner will feel like you know the answers. So this is the point which you have to follow here. And the next error is not writing all the subparts at one place. So under each question there will be 3 subparts, right? 2 or 3 subparts, A, B and C. So all the subparts should be written at one place itself. So suppose you are answering question number 2 and you know the answer to 2A and 2C, but 2B you don't know the answer. What to do now? So answer 2A, then leave some space for 2B and then answer 2C. And later on, like some time you would have kept for revision, right? So later on come back and fill the answer for 2B whenever you remember. So don't do like answer 2A, then answer 3A, then come again and answer 2C, then answer 4B, like this. Don't mix up the questions. So all subparts of one question should be answered at one place. And also one more suggestion is start every subpart and every new question from a new page. So this will look good from the presentation point also. The next error is not attempting full 100 marks paper. So it's better to attempt the full 100 marks paper since there is no negative marking also. And in case you do not know any answer fully also, just write something, whatever you have studied. From that, at least try to remember little bit and write. Because there is no risk of loss of mark due to negative marking. The next error noticed was not reading the questions properly. So this I already mentioned when we discussed about this 15 minutes reading time. Read the questions thoroughly and carefully. Like read what the question is asking. There will be some verbs in the question like explain, list, define, analyze, conclude, give your advice. Like this, see what the question is asking and write that itself in the answer. It shouldn't happen that the question is asking to define something, but we are listing something else. So that shouldn't happen. Whatever the question is asking, we have to write that only in our answer. So read the question carefully with an open mind. The next error is ignoring the first chapter. So this was mostly noticed like in most of the exams. This first chapter, Indian Regulatory Framework, most of the students had left this chapter. So don't do selective study, study all the chapters. And this Indian Regulatory Framework is also very important. Like 6-7 marks questions will definitely come from this chapter. And mostly it will come as a subpart of question 2 or question 3. So now suppose this has come as a subpart, like question 3b is from this chapter and 3a and 3c you know very well. But now because of this 3b which is from this Indian Regulatory Framework you don't know, then you will have to leave out this entire question, right? So why to take that risk? So study this chapter. This is a small chapter but don't ignore this chapter. The next error was ignoring the examples in the study material. So in your study material, there are many examples given. Please go through this example, especially for the Indian Contract Act, because that chapter has highest weightage, right? And in many of the past attempts, it was noticed that similar type of questions were asked in the exam. Like whatever was explained in those examples, the questions revolved around that topic itself. So please go through the examples in the study material. The next mistake was not using legal language while answering. So when you are answering, language to be used should have legal touch. So as I mentioned earlier, write the provisions, write the section numbers. If you can write in your own words, you need not copy paste everything. But the concept should be written, it should be correct. Whatever concept you have written, it should be written correctly. Legal language should be used. Don't use generic answer. So no need to write whatever is there in the textbook word by word. You should correlate the fact to the provisions and you should give the conclusion. You should use legal language. Professionalism should be there in your language. Your language should be simple and appealing. And also use properly framed language. Don't use flowcharts. And whatever provisions you are explaining, ensure you write the essential elements of the provision. Whatever important elements are there, you should explain that clearly. And whatever is asked in the question, only that much provision is enough in the answer. Write only that much provision which fulfills the requirement of the question. And also, as I mentioned earlier, give proper conclusion in line with the requirement of the question. And one more very important point which we have to keep in mind while interpreting law is, it's important to be careful with the words and word or. So these words and or, this can interchange the meaning of the entire sentence. So while you are studying law, between two sentences, if there is a word and, that means all the listed conditions must be met. However, if there is word or between two sentences, that means fulfilling any one condition is enough. So misreading this and the word or can lead to incorrect conclusion. So when you are reading law, always pause and check whether the law requires all the conditions or just one condition. This is very important and sometimes this leads to confusion as well. And also suppose there is a question, like while answering that, in your textbook there was some case law relating to that. If you remember the case law, well and good, quote the name of that case law. But now you don't remember the name of the case law, what to do? Just write as per the case law decided under the Indian Contract Act, and then you can continue your answer. This is the safest method. In case you remember the case law and you quote it, this will enhance your answer. The next mistake noticed was some other common errors. Let's see what are the some other common errors noticed. So don't use short forms, WhatsApp language, SMS language while answering the question. So suppose if abbreviations are to be used, that time first define the abbreviation and then you might use in short form. So for instance, if you are writing any answer and you are using the term one person company, and this term one person company is going to appear frequently in your answer. So first time write fully one person company and in the bracket write as OPC. And thereafter in your answer in the coming paragraphs and coming sentences you can use OPC. This way you can use it. And also the answer should be given in legible English language. And don't use any shorthand notes, diagrams, flowcharts, etc. And the last error noticed was not taking calculator to the exam. So calculator actually is not that much required, but very rarely it was noticed that once or twice, like a question had come from the Companies Act, which required some slight calculations. So if you are not quick enough in calculation or in exam stress, if there are chances of wrongly calculating, then it's better to carry a calculator for your business law paper as well. Because if any small calculation based question comes and if you are stressed because of the exam and if the calculator is with you, you will be more confident and you will be able to solve it. So guys, if you stay mindful of these common mistakes and correct your exam approach, scoring well in CA Foundation Business Law becomes much easier. So if you found this video helpful and informative, don't forget to like and share the video. And also subscribe to my channel for more CA exam tips and smart study strategies. All the best for your exams and I will see you all in the next video.